The morning of May 18th, 1980 dawned calm and clear in the Pacific Northwest, but beneath the surface of Mt St Helens, chaos was brewing. It wasn't the kind of chaos that shouts, it was the kind that whispers, a low, rumbling warning that something ancient and uncontrollable was waking up. Locals had been watching the mountain for weeks. Small earthquakes, plumes of ash, and a bulging north face had signaled that the volcano was alive, though it had been quiet for over a century. Scientists swarmed the area, setting up monitoring stations, warning that an eruption was imminent, but no one would be fully prepared for Helen's wrath. At 8:32 a.m., it happened. The earth gave way to an explosion unlike any other. The mountain's entire north face collapsed in a massive landslide, the largest in recorded history, exposing the pressurized magma deep within. The blast ripped through the landscape with a force equivalent to 500 atomic bombs, with speeds clocked at nearly 700 miles per hour. Trees were flattened in an instant. Giant Douglas firs turned to toothpicks as the pyroclastic flow surged across the land. The intense heat and insane debris claimed the forest, leaving a gray, ashen graveyard in its wake. Within minutes, the sky turned black as coal as ash shot 80,000 feet into the air and spread across 11 states. The wind carried the mountain's fury across the country, dropping ash in places as far away as Oklahoma. It was more than a geological event, it was cataclysmic. For those who lived through it, it was a moment where nature peeled back its calm facade to reveal raw, unrestrained power. People like Harry R. Truman, the 83-year-old caretaker of Spirit Lake, refused to leave. He said,
"The mountain and I have a deal."
But Helen defaulted that morning in May. Spirit Lake was buried under a 600-foot wave of debris, and sadly, Harry along with it. The devastation didn't stop at the trees or the ash-filled air. Rivers flooded with melted ice and snow, creating lahars, raging mud flows that carried the mountain's destruction downstream. Roads, bridges, and homes stood no chance against these flows. In total, 57 lives were lost, and over 230 square miles of forest completely leveled. Some say that Helen isn't all that was stirred up that day. Following the eruption of Mt St Helens, reports began to surface of an ominous creature flying through the volcanic plume. It was described as having a humanoid frame and simian facial features with burning red eyes. The most chilling of all were its massive wings that are reported to have spanned 50 feet from tip to tip. Reports say that the creature was seen circling the area and darting through the ash-filled sky. The sightings, combined with sporadic seismic activity and frequent environmental changes, made an already terrifying event feel even more apocalyptic. Specific details about individual sightings from the 1980s are scarce. Nonetheless, the legend of the creature dubbed Batsquatch was born. The tales began circulating in local folklore as people in the Pacific Northwest swapped stories of encounters with strange creatures near the volcano. The most notable encounter would occur 14 years after the eruption. It was a quiet night in 1994, the kind where the world feels just a little too still. Brian Canfield, a teenager at the time, was driving along a remote road near Mount Rainier, Washington's other looming giant, when his truck sputtered and died. His engine cut out, the headlights dimmed, and an eerie silence wrapped around his truck like a weighted blanket. Then, out of the darkness, it appeared. Landing before his stalled truck was a creature unlike anything Brian had ever seen or ever wanted to see again. Towering and menacing, he described the 9-foot behemoth as almost humanoid, but its enormous, leathery wings and fur-covered body betrayed its inhuman nature. The fur had a bluish hue under the light of the moon, and its piercing yellow eyes cut through the darkness, locking onto him in an unbroken, unsettling stare. He later described the eyes forever etched into his mind.
Its eyes were yellow and shaped like a piece of cake with pupils like a crescent moon. The mouth was quite large with white teeth but no fangs. The face was like that of a wolf.
Under the gaze of those eyes, time seemed to hang in the air. Neither Brian nor the creature moved, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Then, with slow, deliberate motion, it unfurled its massive wings, spanning what seemed like the entire width of the road. A few powerful beats, and it launched itself into the night sky, disappearing into the shadows as suddenly as it had appeared. Brian sat in stunned shock. For how long, no one knows, but out of nowhere, his truck roared back to life, as if whatever had stalled it had been released after the creature's departure. Though 50 miles north of Mt St Helens with wings that large, it would only take about an hour, maybe less depending upon flight speed, and even less than that if its origins are otherworldly. With variations from the 80s encounters, the event still felt tethered to the same primal energy that seemed to pulse through Washington's other volcanic peak. Brian's sighting didn't just add to the legend of Batsquatch, it cemented the creature as a cryptid firmly rooted in the untamed wilderness of the Pacific Northwest. Is Batsquatch an ancient guardian unleashed by the cataclysm of Mt St Helens? Or was it perhaps a monster born of the apocalyptic devastation?